There are many things that can be dangerous to your pets. So there are a lot of things that some people don't realize can be toxic or dangerous, but they really can be. So I thought I'd go through a couple of those things. Believe it or not, there are some human foods that you want to avoid in your pets. I know that seems surprising since we can eat them. Why can't the pet eat them? But some of those would be things like grapes or raisins. Those can contribute to kidney disease in pets. Onions can cause some problems with anemia in pets. Chewing gum, believe it or not, is a big one. There's an artificial sweetener in chewing gum called xylitol that can cause toxicity in pets, so you want to be careful with that one. Chocolate, most people are aware of that. Typically, milk chocolate, if it's a small amount, is not going to cause a problem unless you have a really tiny dog. But the richer chocolates, like the dark chocolates or cocoa or truffles, those kind of things can be very dangerous. It's always best to call the veterinarian if they do get into chocolate. You don't want to assume it would be okay. Another thing can be really fatty meals. I know it's not uncommon for people to take the fat off of a steak or off of another piece of meat and give that to the dog. Sometimes that can cause problems. It could be as simple as diarrhea, or it could be as severe as something like pancreatitis. The other thing is bones. And I know that's another thing where people will commonly get bones, maybe even at the butcher shop, or just of their own bones that are on the plate after they eat. And those can definitely cause problems. Dogs can become obstructed with bones, so that means they can get trapped in their small intestine, and then they're unable to pass that and can get very ill and require surgery. Can also have bones get lodged in the mouth of dogs, sometimes in the esophagus of the dog. And actually these things all apply to cats too. Just I've been saying dog, but cats can also have the same problems. So just be aware that there are a number of things that you can give your pet that you can eat that are not safe for the pet. Anytime you know these kind of things have been ingested, you need to call the veterinarian, and they may want you to come in. Oftentimes we have to induce vomiting and sometimes give other treatments as well. There are a number of toxins. Of course, those make more sense because you know they're toxic to something, but they're also toxic to dogs. One big one would be rodenticides, things like Decon and other agents like that. Basically, those cause the blood not to clot, and so they can cause your dog to have very severe bleeding. Organophosphates are another compound that can be very dangerous. These are things like pesticides, like malathion, and some of the things that are used on roses or other plants. Prescription medications can be very dangerous, both the ones that we have as humans, as we know dogs like to get into stuff, so they may get into something that would be dangerous that you're taking, or they can get into animal drugs. And there can be situations where maybe your dog is on a chewable type of tablet for a problem, and those taste really good, and you leave the house for a while and they decide to chew up the whole bottle, including all of the tablets. So you can definitely see some problems with those medications. Houseplants can also be dangerous. Among those, probably the Easter lily and poinsettias can be fairly dangerous, as well as castor beans are one that can be very dangerous to pets as well. And everybody knows about weather elements. Certainly heat stroke is a big problem with dogs, especially in the summertime. People like to take them in their cars, and we always have to be aware that even with the windows open, there are definitely times of the year when it is not safe to take your dog in the car. Heat stroke can definitely be life-threatening. They can also have problems with cold, and frostbite is probably the biggest problem with that. So it's always important if you have a pet that you're leaving outside, whether it's summer or winter, that they have adequate shade or housing, they have protection from the elements, and of course that they have adequate water and food. Containment can also be a problem, which sounds a little odd, but if you have a cable or a tie-out, those are things that can be potentially dangerous to dogs. They can basically get those things wrapped around their neck, or they can get caught on something. Same goes, even though we have to have collars on them, there are times when the collar can get caught, whether it's a cat or a dog. So it's a good idea to get the breakaway collars, and just in case it's a situation where a pet may be trying to go through a fence. The other thing that's dangerous, and is one of my pet peeves, are dogs in the back of pickup trucks. And I know that that's something that many people think is fine, and the dog may stay back there and the dog's used to it. But as a veterinarian in practice, I saw a lot of cases where dogs were very fatally injured with trucks, or coming out of a truck, or where they were injured just because what usually will happen is the owner has to slam on the brakes for some reason. And because of that, the animal is ejected from the truck bed, and you can see all kinds of situations. If the dog is tethered to the truck, you'll see them be drug along the truck. Oftentimes they're hit by another vehicle that may be either next to the vehicle or behind the vehicle. So that's one of those that I would recommend that you please don't take your dog in the back of a pickup truck. If you're going to do that, you should have the pet in a carrier that's secured to the bottom of the truck bed.